in the second book, when it picks up, she's back with Tamlin. She's settling into life with him. And now they're learning about each other. They're getting to know each other.
I think it's been like 6 months since.
It's been a handful of months.
You get these.
I'm
just going to get into like my thoughts on the first half of the book. So she's getting to know him on like an everyday level. Like things that he does is he's basically a landlord. He basically is. You know,
he's obsessed with being a landlord.
He rules over his land, and he collects debts from all of the occupiers of the land. And you know, she asks him, when we get married, like, what are you gonna call me, like a high lady? And he's like, high ladies don't really exist, like, you can be my wife. And
my wife.
There's one experience that she has with him where she kind of realizes how different they are. This was a huge part of the book for me, and it was in the beginning. She goes with him to collect a debt from, I think it was like it was a water fairy.
There was like a whole day dedicated to collecting debt. Like they didn't seek out the water fairy.
People have to go to his mansion and give him
like it was his payday.
A basket of food. Like they have to give him something equivalent to what they owe him.
And I think because it was a water fairy, they typically give fish. And she
something
said
like that, but then they talk about, you get like some lore on the water fairies that they're very gluttonous.
Gluttonous. They're filled with gluten.
They're gluten-free.
My mom cannot have them.
But they're very gluttonous in terms of like they're constantly like overeating, overspending, whatever. Like if they have it, they're like it's burning a hole in their pocket, whatever it may be.
So the water fairy comes up to them and says, I'm really sorry. I think they said they've been dealing with like a drought or something with how many fish that they're able to procure, and said, I don't have anything for you. And you see two very different reactions. You see Feyre, who knows what it's like to be poor, be starving, not know where your next meal is going to come from. And you have Tamlin, who has been privileged his entire life, and he kind of looks at the fairy and he's like, well, tough shit, you can give me this debt, and I think he gave her like 3 days or something. He said, or you can have it double. And Feyre is really disturbed by this. After I think he walks away, and she takes the jewelry off her body and goes, go buy something and bring it back here. And she shows this she's like a Princess Diana of the land. She shows compassion.
She's the Princess Diana of the Spring Court.
She gets into trouble with Tamlin about it.
He's like,
you
undermine me.
Yes, he thinks that she's undermining him.
A true narcissist.
She's not respecting. For him, it was, this is the way things are done.
It's about always been done.
Value and tradition. And for her, it's not that she's so much a rule breaker, is that she really just tries to do the right thing. And you see, this is the first time that you see them actually talk about their values.
Something real.
Yeah.
Which is something that you typically do before you enter a relationship with someone. Like if you're dating someone but you aren't in a relationship with them yet, you would talk about things like that.
Yeah. And
oh my God, it reminded me. I felt so strong. This is when I actually started to hate Tamlin, and I was like, I knew I had a weird feeling about you. It reminded me of an interaction I had with an ex-boyfriend. I was dating him for a long time, and he was visiting for like a winter break or something, and I was like, oh my God, like I've missed you. It was winter. So, and my parents just moved to a new town that was much nicer than the old place I lived in. I said, it's cold out, like we can't really do much. Why don't we go driving around and look at the mansions? Because it would be pretty. And he looked at me and he went, you sound like a fucking poor person right now. And I went, what? And he was like, that's what poor people do. That is
literally
disgusting.
What Tamlin said to her.
He went, that is disgusting. That is what poor people do. And I went, you've known this entire time. It's like I'm not saying I'm her, but I was like, you've known this entire time that I didn't grow up with money.
Yeah.
Like I didn't grow up as privileged as you. And he went, yeah, but you don't act like it. You want to have money someday, right? And I was like, I want to have money. I don't want to be an asshole. Oh my God. I broke up with him a few months later. So when I read that scene, I was like, this is her realizing that like they have very different values. And that it just, you can't, like, it's hard to picture a future with someone thinking like that you like fundamentally
you have
are
to walk on
people.
eggshells.
Yes. And you
filled with rage.
You learn throughout the series that it's not that he is a bad guy, it's that he very obviously grew up in a box, right?
Well, I think Meghan said it perfectly. He was raised by his dad.
He was raised by his father. He talks about not wanting to be like his father, by the way.
He grew up with brothers. He grew up raised by his dad. And I mean, we haven't gotten there yet, but I'm just going to say it. Bryce was raised by his mom and had a sister.
Raised by his mom. But
that's why you always date a man with a sister.
So basically, their wedding day comes. She's
oh my god! Wait,
oh my god!
Even before that, the first domino. I'm speaking. No, the first domino that makes Tamlin fall is in the beginning of the book when you find out she's waking up every night with nightmares for the past 3 months.
Oh, you're right.
Pukes her brains out, and Tamlin told her not to wake him up.
Yes, he said, don't wake me up. He doesn't care that she's basically having these horrific panic attacks. I also need to say that Sarah J, I know she pronounces her last name Mass. She does a great job.
She loves making her characters puke.
She does a great job. I was joking. I was like, this bitch just threw up again. She does a great job of capturing the physical effects of anxiety. All of the characters, even when like Feyre becomes a fairy, and all of the powerful like lords, when they get deeply upsetting news, their gut reaction is to like throw up. It's to sit down and cry. Like it's
no, their gut reaction is to always throw up.
Everyone is fucking puking their brains out.
Anytime anyone has like a tinge of anxiety, the next page is always like, I threw my guts up.
And you know what? That is so me. Every single time I hear something upsetting or I get really anxious, I am going to the bathroom and I'm throwing up. No, I am throwing up. My body cannot handle it.
That's so a woman written by Sarah J. Maas coded it.
It is. No, when I read, I was like, everyone here is like me. Oh my god.
But yeah, so that was like the first domino that made Tamlin start to fall. And you're like, wait, what happened to the guy in the first book? Yeah. And then the thing with the water, whatever happened.
You learn that he is someone
and now we're at the wedding day.
He cares for her, but I think he has this image of her built up, and he likes you learn that he's loving the idea of her more than who she is
before she went under the mountain.
Yes, the human version.
Wasn't willing to grow with her.
Yes. Yeah.
He just wanted her to stay the girl that she was before she went under the mountain.
The bitch who went under the mountain, she died.
I think
she literally and figuratively died.
I think at his core what he wanted was companionship, and at her core she wanted someone,
a mate,
who would grow with her and she didn't just want to be like adorned on someone's arm. Mm-hmm. She wanted to be her own person, and he was always just kind of threatened by her being independent, and he used her safety as a very veiled disguise he locks her in the house, for instance.
Well, that was after the wedding. So the wedding comes. Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the wedding.
Ianthe literally plans the entire thing.
The high priestess.
Fucking bitch.
At that point, also, you kind of like her because Feyre, in her inner monologue, that's her only friend. The wedding.
So Ianthe plans the entire wedding, and I remember reading it, and I'm like, why isn't her, like, basically Ianthe and Tamlin are planning the wedding.
Why doesn't she have control over anything?
Even the dress. I remember she was like, I don't really like this dress. Yeah. And Tamlin was like, this is gorgeous. This
You're
is what
beautiful.
This is what
a High Lord's wife would wear.
Yeah, this is what the Spring Court's high lady would wear. Mm-hmm. But not even a high lady.
His
Lord's wife. And
yes,
my wife. That's what my wife would wear.
And she was like, okay. And then that's what made me kind of like Riz when he like she's walking down the aisle, and
so she's kind of like already in a bad headspace going into the wedding. She doesn't love that she wasn't able to plan anything. She doesn't love the role she's being forced to play. She doesn't love her dress.
She's having all these come to Jesus moments where she's saying like,
someone help me.
The only reason she's walking down this aisle right now is because of the love she still has for Tamlin.
And also, to be fair,
and honestly, by that point, it's still kind of hanging on.
She has nowhere left to go. She just basically killed herself and other people to be at this point. So she's essentially trapped herself, and she's, at least in my mind, she's kind of just living with the consequences of that. Like she can't go back to the human world. She can't really go to any of the other courts because she doesn't belong there. And she knows that, like, she loves someone here and she sacrificed so much for him. I also just want to bring it back one moment. This is where his lack of effort under the mountain, where she's like basically killing herself for him, becomes more apparent, because you see in the, the first half of the second book,
you start to realize that he probably could have helped her.
He could have helped her.
Whereas when you're reading the first book, you're like, oh no, he couldn't have.
Yeah. Yes.
But as you're reading, then you're like, wait.
She's kind of, he doesn't sleep with her at night. They sleep in separate rooms. The only physical interactions they really have are to have sex. She's
an object.
Yeah, she's an object to him. Sarah J. Maas she captures this very well, where in real life, like, guys like that, it's not that they don't care about you. It's not that they don't love you.
They care more about themselves.
They care more about themselves, but also they can't give you what you need.
Mm-hmm. That's a true narcissist.
It's plain and simple. They can't give you the love and affection that you need because that's not their concern.
Because also, ultimately, I think that if he was just able to talk to her and she just had someone to vent this to, it might have worked out between the two of them, but he was just so unwilling to do that.
He doesn't really communicate with her.
And just wanted her to play the role that he wanted her to play in his head, that he wasn't willing to give that up.
Like, he doesn't welcome any differences that she has from his own personality.
Like, they wake up, eat breakfast, and be like, okay, well, I got duties today. Like, I'll see you later.
I'm going this way. I'm going that way.
And he wouldn't. She would be like, well, where are you going? Why are you going? And he's like, you're my wife. You're going to be my wife. Sit the fuck down.
And you kind of you can tell that she feels stupid at this point because, like, I am very much like me. Like, I understand. What?
We keep going to the wedding. We haven't even gotten to the
No. But I think we need to build it. We need to build it up. Because, like, for me, I'm very much someone who, like, I love very deeply. If I could just, like, take my heart out of my chest, put it on a silver platter, and just serve it up to the people I love, I'll do it. And then if you look me in the eyes and take my heart and stomp on it and shatter it in a million pieces in front of me,
you'd say thank you.
I'm the type of person to be like, you missed that spot. Like,
and at that point, that was Feyre.
She was very much that. And she kind of has this realization where she's like, oh my God, I don't think I'm getting any of this back. Yeah. Like, I made all these sacrifices and I was willing to do
independent. I mean, she was the sole provider for her family. Yes. And then she went and now she's what? A wife?
Yeah.
She's just a wife and has to plan parties and write invitations. She can't even write. She still doesn't know how to read illiterate.
He also doesn't. It's a theme that he doesn't really.
He doesn't know her.
He doesn't know her, and he doesn't.
To her true core.
He doesn't really care to know her. He kind of wants to mold her into whatever he needs. Okay, so let's get to the wedding.
So she's walking down the aisle, and she kind of, like, gets going, and then she stops, and she is kind of staring at Tamlin, staring at everyone around her, and is like, holy shit, God. I'm about to puke my guts up.
me on my wedding day.
Somebody save me. Somebody needs to save me.
Like, she's looking to Elaine.
Ianthe.
To be like, look in my eyes, like, you're my only friend, like, you have to see it in my face. She's looking to Tamlin, like, someone has to see this in my face, like, someone has to just stop, like, somebody just come and save me.
She's also realizing, like, she rushed into it too. Like, it's not even just like she's having doubts.
They haven't even been out from under the mountain for a year at this point.
So I think it's all coming to her.
I think they, like, got engaged as soon as they got back to the spring court after Under the Mountain, and I think, I don't know, it's less than 6 months, like, they're getting married.
So she's, like, basically screaming in her head.
Like, I imagine her just sitting there like,
yes,
like gagging, like,
so.
And then you, like, you feel this dark figure come behind, and then she kind of turns around and he goes, hello, Feyre, darling. He's like, I've come to call in our bargain. And then everyone's like,
everyone's like, this asshole stealing away Tamlin's wife on their wedding, classic rhysand or whatever his name is.
So Tamlin's like, no, you can't take it. And he's like, no, like, look at our hands. We have a deal.
He's like, we are bonded by these tattoos.
Calling in the deal.
He literally said, I did not get my week with her yet. It is time.
He was like, it was 3 months because he said, I gave you 3 months.
Yes.
Like, I didn't come and get her for 3 months. I let her adjust.
We're actually on a backlog.
I'm calling this in right now.
Yes.
He didn't even really give Tamlin a chance to, like, attack her. He just kind of grabbed her and they went out of there.
Yes, and she so they get back to
and she throws a shoe at him.
She throws a shoe at him and she's like, how dare you steal me away from my wedding? And he was like, you were begging me to.
She's like, how the fuck do you know that?
Like, okay, wait.
Deal.
Also, we didn't say rhysand. His power is that he can enter people's minds. It's even stronger because they're bonded. They're bonded by that deal that they made. So he was able to actually hear her asking for help. So she's trying to pretend like she's really devastated. She's like, I can't believe you just did that. And he was like, well, I can't believe you asked me to.
Yeah, she's like, you asshole, you took me for a wedding. He's like, I'm an asshole, you weren't going to go through it. And she's like, what the fuck do you mean I wasn't going to go through with it?
Wait, how do you know that? Like,
and then he's like, you were literally screaming. Yes. And she's like, so you can hear every thought? He's like, no, I just happen to hear that one, and I can hear when you puke your guts up every night. And I can't sleep either.
Like, dummy, you're keeping me up. Like, that's how I imagined him, like, with the eyeball on his hand. Like, dummy.
Yes. So
then
you illiterate fuck.
So he essentially saves her.
Yeah. And then she's there. She's like, well, why can't I read your thoughts? Why aren't you in? Why am I not in your head?
Yeah.
And he's like, because I have shields up. He's like, I can teach you that if you'd like. Like, I'm sure you have other powers. I'd love to help you with
point,
them.
he also knows
Tamlin made it very clear he did not want her learning any powers if she was to have
He didn't
them.
want her having any semblance of independence.
Well, because also in Tamlin's head, he was like, if you have powers, then they're gonna kill you.
There's a target on your
He
back.
always used her safety as
a mask.
Yeah, as a mask for him, just preventing her from
doing anything.
For actually being able to leave him.
Yeah.
Having any resources other than him. And with rhysand,
literally within the first 5 minutes of her being there, he offered to train her.
He knows that she's illiterate. And no, he knows she's illiterate, and he's like, by the way, he literally says, can I teach you how to read? He's giving her all these tools, which is funny because, not that she's his captive, but he's actually, from the second he gets her, he wants to give her all these tools on how to
survive.
Be independent, to survive. He sees a lot of potential within her, and he wants to help her be the best version of herself. It doesn't matter what her perception is of him.
Who she's with.
Yeah, who she's with.
Also, Tamlin and Rai,
they're
hate
enemies.
each other.
They are. They're
They both killed each other's families.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that at this point yet.
Yes.
No.
But no, you knew something.
You knew some of it,
Yeah.
but not everything.
I think you found out in the first book that Rice definitely killed Tamlin's family.
Yeah.
But you didn't. I think you find out in the second book that Tamlin killed Rice's mom and sister first. So in the first book, that's also why you hate him, because you're like, he killed Tamlin's family.
Yeah.
But then in the second book, you find out it was a realization killing his own family.
Tamlin.
So the middle part of the book is them building this relationship from enemies to friends, and you start to get a real respect. You start to develop a real respect for rhysand because
you start falling in love with him.
You start falling in love with him because you can tell that he wants to be very vulnerable with her. Mm-hmm. He begins to open up about how he was raised, what it took for him to become Amarantha's whore, and you find out. Who would like to explain it?
About his secret city. Because the first time it happens, whatever, he sends her back, obviously. She comes again, whatever, he sends her back.
A little more willing.
A little more willing. She comes back. She's kind of happy that she has this week away from Tamlin. And then she goes back.
That should have been her first clue.
Fuck.
And then the final time she goes back, she's begging Tamlin to just go on a mission with him or something. I don't even think it was that big of a deal. And
a side quest.
Yeah.
Literally
he was no. And then he
quest.
puts magic on the house, so she's trapped in the house.
She's literally banging her head.
He
against
locks her
trigger
in.
for her.
He locks her in. She's triggered. She feels hurt.
She's so triggered. It activates the power she doesn't even know she has.
She literally melts her engagement ring
She melts
off.
her engagement ring off of her finger. She's just freaking out so much so that obviously Rice can feel it in her head. He sends his cousin in to come and save her. And now they're back. She's at his house, obviously happy to get out of there. And he's like, okay, so you're staying here. And she's like, oh, I think I am.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you're going to stay here, I need you to A, learn how to put up your shields so no one can get in your mind. And B, you can't tell anyone what I'm about to show you.
Yeah.
And then he takes her out of the House of Wind and takes her to Valeris and is like, this is Valeris. This is why I was the whore. This is why I had to let everything go down the way it did, because I needed to protect this, because this is so sacred to me.
And it's so
he essentially, this woman who cursed the land, he becomes essentially what is a double spy. He gets closest to his enemy to protect the ones that he loves.
most.
He essentially
makes
it so that his last drop of power to essentially make his
50 years before she did everything,
to make his city basically invisible to her.
And then he sent to his friends. He's like, "Hey, this is what just happened. I put a shield up.
You guys have to protect this city."
Yes.
I don't know when I'll see you. I love you guys.
I think the shield was also connected to them as well, so they couldn't leave either. They were also kind of stuck there.
Yeah,
because he needed them there to protect.
You learn that when everyone's making fun of him and saying that he's the most horrible person,
he has no friends.
He's essentially selling his body to make sure that not just his family, not just his friends, his entire city is safe, which is crazy. And you see the juxtaposition in Tamlin being someone who's very me-centered, and rhysand, he is very self-sacrificing. He's the last person that he thinks of when he does something.
And I think you find out in the third book when all the lords meet up together that in addition, obviously, like his main priority was Valeris and everything. Also, sometimes he would help like sway her decision because she trusted him so much, so that maybe the obvious like nothing good. She didn't do anything good, but maybe she wasn't choosing the worst option out of everything.
It was the lesser of two evils.
He was trying to sway her certain ways to like keep certain people safe.
Yes.
So like you find out in the first book, he went into her mind, and he was like, "What's your name?" And she gave a fake name. I mean, it was a real name and a real person.
Poor Claire Bechter.
And he went back.
I thought it was Claire Weber.
No, it was Bechter.
Oh, Bechter. Oh, yes.
And he went back to Amarantha, and he's like, "Her name's Claire Bechter," and he knew that her name wasn't Claire Bechter, and he lied. And he was so hurt that he threw up.
Everyone's throwing up in these books. Hey, they're so mean.
He's so in love with her that he threw up.
So it's very clear that they have feelings for each other. He shows it more than her because she's coming off this
is
low.
Continuously also calling him like a shameless flirt, and you can see that throughout the book. Whatever.
Well, when someone's always flirting with you, it's hard for
easy to fall in love.
No, not just that. It's easy
to flirt back.
No, yes, but when someone's a flirt and they're flirting with you, yes, it's easy to flirt back. It's easy to like them.
You don't think it's real.
It is very, very hard to think that that person could have any genuine feelings for you because you're just thinking like, especially as a woman, you're like, I'm just another woman that this person wants to sleep with. Like that's it. At the beginning,
he was also kind of doing it just because he knew it made her like laugh.
Yes.
When she got to write back and be like, "You're a fucking pig."
He was providing levity.
And then she would say she could like feel him laughing throughout the house, kind of thing. Like,
but you learn it's very much not in jest. You begin to see it's very clear that he has a lot of feelings for her, and she is very conflicted about the fact that she's having feelings for him. Now,
because throughout the whole book, she's like, it's one-sided.
Yes.
It's one-sided.
Yeah,
why would the High Lord like me?
Why would the High Lord like me? He's the most beautiful man I've ever seen in my life.
He's the most powerful High Lord.
He's helping me. I was just in a situationship with his number one up.
Yeah.
Like, but, okay, let's get into the Court of Nightmares.
That
changed everything.
It changed lives.
Scene.
So, someone else. I can't describe it. I can't describe it.
They're in the Court of Nightmares, and
by the way, rhysand belongs to the Night Court.
Yeah, he's the High Lord of
No, like prereq to that.
Oh yeah.
They know they have to go on a mission to the Night Court, and he was telling Feyre like, "You have to stay back. I have to play a role, and I really don't want you kind of seeing me like that. Like I'm kind of embarrassed of what I have to become when I'm down there." And she's like, "No, like I want in.
Yeah,
I want to be like your right hand man."
And he's essentially providing her what Tamlin wouldn't, which was just respect and,
he said,
exposure.
"Are you like sure?" And she was like, "Guess this is what I want to do. I want to help." He said, "Okay, well, babe." Get naked.
You gotta play.
He literally said, "You have to pretend to be my whore."
Yeah. Babe,
you have to play
get naked.
Like we're under
get naked.
Under the mountain.
Except he didn't say whore because he doesn't like that word.
No, he doesn't like that word.
So he said, "You have to be my girl. You have to pretend like we're under the mountain."
So
which is very easy for Feyre because she had a huge crush on him.
So she's in this. I believe it's like a very skimpy, glittering, sheer black dress.
I pictured again the Princess Leia slave outfit.
It was described as a sheer like black, glittering black dress, but it was like sheer, like you could see everything.
And he was in his, like I pictured like a tight, all black suit. Like
I'm putting our favorite rhysand fan art in the things of the week, so go check that out.
And he's no wings because he does not show his wings to anyone that doesn't deserve it.
We haven't even mentioned his wings yet.
He said he's saving his wings for his mate. There's something called a mating bond. It's essentially like
no, but his friends have seen it.
No, like intimacy related.
No, but like he doesn't show his wings at the Night Court at all
because he knows they don't respect him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he saunters in. Like even Feyre said, like I literally felt his presence before he walked in.
I need to emphasize like there is so much sexual tension.
So much.
It is palpable.
It is a slow burn. Yeah. Enemies to lovers.
It's enemies to friends to lovers, which is the best trope.
Oh, and then he walks in. He was like, like Cassian and Azriel, like they're all doted up. They have their 7 siphons. Like
Cassian and Azriel are his friends. They're part of his court.
They're his brothers.
They're the Court of Dreamers.
Yes.
The Bat Bros.
Yes, the Bat Bros.
And they're also Illyrian, which is what they are, which they have wings. They are warriors. And
Moore's there. I don't think Amrin's
his
there.
his cousin.
not there.
Yeah.
And Moore's dad is kind of like,
because the Night Court is separated in two areas. It's the Night Court, which the world gets to know about, and then it's Valeris, which only like the people living in Valeris get to know about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, semantics. Back to the Court of Nightmares.
So then Rhys walks in and he sits upon his throne. And he goes, Feyre, up here. And
got a seat for you right here.
And she sits right on his lap. And he's like,
so he has to.
Her ribs.
So to play the part, he has to pretend like she's like his toy.
Yeah.
So he's touching her in front of everyone. Mm-hmm. Like that's the part she has to play.
Like, and she is
eating it up. Holy shit!
The funny thing is, like, on paper, like, I guess no, like. To the people watching, she's like, oh my God, like, and then you could see in their bond, because they can talk between their bond in their heads. He's like, I'm so sorry.
In his mind, he's like saying, I'm so sorry.
Like, I'm so sorry. Like, they're looking at you like this. Like, I can't believe, like, you're doing this.
He actually, he feels that she is turned on, if you catch my drift. And before she can say anything, he says to her, he goes, I am sorry. I know this is just your body reacting, and it is not you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he had to tell himself that all the time.
Talk. You two are in love. Just speak. Anyway.
And so
she's having the time of her life. It was a nice little night.
I just have to move my...
Okay, let's get into
the meat and
potatoes.
Okay, so that's like the first, like you're getting to the climax of this point.
You were almost at the top of the roller coaster.
So
you were like,
that happens. That really cements her spot within the Court of Dreamers, and everyone like... Not that they didn't respect her before, but they were like, okay, like this bitch came to play.
They know like she's real.
Yeah, like, she's a real one.
Like she's a real one.
She played her part, and she played her part well.
Hey, she wasn't playing no part.
She did not play no part.
No.
So then, whatever, another mission happens. I don't know what they're going to do, but they're going somewhere, wherever.
They're planning for war.
Lucian finds them at some point. She like figures out her shape-shifting power and like grows wings and is like, this is what I am now. Like, tell Tamlin I'm not coming back, whatever. I think she had already sent a note by that point. But
yeah, she sent a note because Tamlin was gonna rage war.
Yeah.
And so she sent a note like I left on my own free will.
I'm safe. Like, I'm not coming home.
Don't come looking for me because you're not gonna find anything.
Mm-hmm. He didn't listen. He was looking for her. So then Lucian finds her in the mountains. She like she uses Tamlin's power, essentially shapeshifts into a Lilirian form.
The reason why she has me now. The reason why she has different powers is because the lords brought her back.
Yeah,
she got a drop of each of them.
She kind of took from each of them.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, she has that power. Whatever.
Anyway,
they scare Lucian away. Mm-hmm. Whatever.
By the
Lucian
way,
leaves.
In case you're wondering, the chapter we just discussed, chapter 52. You're welcome.
So then
read.
They have to go stay the night at the inn. Well, guess what the inn has only one bed. One bedroom with one bed.
Yeah.
This is where things start getting a little crazy. I've never felt energy like this before. It was electric.
Like that TikTok is like, oh my God, I've never
felt energy like that before. It was electric.
The passion.
That's literally what this chapter is like starting. Like, you'll never feel energy. Like, you're never going to ride a high, like, reading that for the first time. So much so that I bought my own copy of the book to annotate and read it.
It's a book and a half's worth of tension. It is a book and a half's worth.
So like, now do you understand why I said if there was ever a fire, I would save this book?
Yes. Okay, hold on. We gotta get into it.
We have 13 minutes.
So they're at the inn. They're doing whatever. They just ate. He just changed his clothes. Oh my God. Wait. Pause. Before that, the scene where he has a nightmare and she has to go save him and he's naked.
He's naked. And she's, wait. She literally said, she goes, I'm not going to look past his midsection. I'm not doing it. And she was like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Because it had a lot of buildup. Because she's sleeping in her bed. She thinks like an earthquake's happening. She goes into his room. There's like a dark storm happening around. Like his nightmares are like taking place everywhere. So she goes. It's so dark in there. She can't really see him. She like finds him and like touches his shoulder and then grabs his face and he's like, breathe. It's okay. You're here. You're not there. And then finally like,
yes,
whatever. And then once everything comes down, she realizes he's naked on his knees. And then she's like, but I'm going to make a point to not look there. And then, like, she goes, breathe. And then he just kind of, like, it's like, okay. And then she's like, actually, I'm going to look there.
Actually, I'm looking
there.
And she goes, that guy has a schlong.
It's
a horse cock.
It's described as a considerable length. What that is to you is up to interpretation.
Cock.
So
to Taylor, it's horsecock. Me, I don't know.
Whatever. That also kind of like set up some additional sexual tension between the two of them. I don't remember if that was before or
Because
after
you're like, they're gonna have sex now, right? Like, they're gonna have sex. They're gonna have sex. No.
I just had to talk about that part because I realized we didn't talk about it. Okay, so
Yes.
now you're at the inn. They're in the inn. Whatever they ate, they changed. He changed in front of her, and she was having flashbacks to that night of him on his knees.
He can read. He sensed something.
He could feel the room. Whatever. It's freezing in there. They can't
just
use their
poured
powers
rain.
because the reason Lucian tracked him was because they could like
They
sense
used
the powers or
magic.
smell the magic, whatever the fuck it is. So they can't use magic to make the room warm. So it's freezing in there. So they're cuddling together in the bed.
He
and then
encapsulates her in the wings.
with the wings.
I need to preface though. So he had told her a few chapters before that there are certain spots on fairies' wings where
Illyrian wings.
Sorry, Illyrian wings, where if you touch it the right way, you can make someone orgasm.
So then they're sitting in the bed. She's kind of like playing with his wings.
like tickling.
He puts
And she's like, I immediately felt him rock hard behind.
No. I know what it said. She said I was tracing his wings and I felt his cock twitch.
So then that happens, and then she kind of looks
I literally drooled at that part. Like when I
My mouth was dry as hell.
So then she kind of looks to him, and he's like, "What do you want to do?" And she's like, "I just want to distract you and have some fun."
And you can tell
for
that
sure that could be arranged.
You hear his inner monologue where he's really upset
But
about
he's
it,
like,
but he's like, I'm not fumbling my chance right now.
So he
was
was
like-
her.
So I think he says, he's like, if fun's what you want, Feyre darling, like fun's what we're gonna have. So he fingers her. She goes crazy, whatever.
And she's like, I want to have sex, and he's like, no.
He's like, no, not in this tiny ass room. He goes, we're having sex
I'm
properly in every room of the house.
He said, I want
against the wall.
No, not just that. He said,
against the wall.
I want you splayed out on the table like my own
feast.
Personal feast. And guess what happens the next chapter?
He does.
No. Even before that. Oh. So then they leave the inn, whatever.
Oh my God.
At that point, he realizes, and you can tell within the way she's describing him, he's about to tell her that he's in love with her.
That he's in love with her, yes. It's very apparent. Everything is clicking into place for him.
He gets shot out of the sky. I don't remember by who, whatever. He
with
falls.
poisonous arrows.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then she has to take the arrows out of him. She's explaining this story about how she would paint when she was a kid and how she painted this dresser with flowers for her sister Elaine, fire for her sister Nesta. And he's like, oh, did you paint anything for yourself? Because she's trying to distract him because she's literally ripping these arrows out of his wings. And she goes, yeah, weirdly enough, like someone showed me, like I just saw a picture of a night sky in my head, so I painted the night sky. Like that was for me on the 3 drawers of the dresser. And he's like, oh, okay. And then like he passes out from the pain, whatever.
And by the way, he is the High Lord of
the Night Court.
The Night Court.
So you're reading that and you're like, oh my God, the stars? What the heck?
Invisible string theory. Also,
you don't have the story behind
very
it yet.
quick on painting. She loved painting. She lost her love for painting while she was still with Tamlin because of everything that happened, and he couldn't accept the fact that like
she just couldn't sit there and paint.
He was trying to force her to do things, and it was his perception with rhysand. He was just so genuinely curious about what she liked and didn't like anymore. So that's what led.
And even like while she was with them, like you could see her heel where she would be like, "Oh, if I painted that, I'd call it like the Dark Master," like stuff like that. Like she was like starting to be like, "Oh, I'd paint it like this," or the colors, or
she hadn't even thought about painting before this point. Yeah. So whatever, she's pulling the things out of his wings. Whatever, he passes out from the pain, obviously, and then she feels his head. She's like, "Oh my God, he's running a fever. He's going to die.
Yes,
I have to get him help." So she captures the Skrull again, Suriel.
The Suriel.
We're not there yet.
I know. I love.
She captures the Suriel, and she's like, "Oh my God, like thank God." The Suriel's an all-knowing being in the world.
Very hard to catch.
And she's caught him now.
She's caught him twice. And it's her friend, essentially, because the first time she captured it, it saved her. Yeah. No, she saved it.
Yes.
So it respects her. It's talking to her.
She gave him a nice cloak.
It's like, okay, so what you're going to want to do, there's some flowers by the water over there, and you're going to want to let your mate drink your blood. And she's like, okay, great. And then she like goes to turn, and she turns back around and she goes, my what?
My mate? And he's like,
yeah.
You didn't
know that?
And she's like, no. And then in her head, she's like, well, does Rice know that? And it's like, yeah, Rice has been know that.
He's my mate. My mate.
So then she walks into this cave pissed off, forces him to chew the flower, like cuts her elbow, makes him drink it.
He wakes up. And
she wakes up. She is pissed as
She's
hell.
like, get me the fuck out of here now.
She's like, let's go. I don't even know if she like said anything by that point.
Because then she was like, And he's like, what?
Oh, because she was like, so I'm just going to be the last one to realize I'm your mate kind of thing. And he's like, well, dude, no. And she's like, let's get out of here. So then he flies her home, and then
they go back
he
to
can't really walk.
She literally drops him.
She drops him in the mud.
Mor and Azriel are in the window, and they see her. They run out. They realize she's fine. Azriel goes, and then she goes, Mor, get me the fuck out of here. I want to be nowhere near him. So then Mor takes her to this special house where it becomes such a special place in book 4.
Yeah. So then she takes him to, like, this house. It's like his family's house. It's so protected by magic.
No one in their family can...
no one
except their family can get in.
Get in. Like, that's the kind of magic, blood magic, whatever it is. So Mor takes her there. She's like, okay, I won't tell anyone where you are. I'll be back in 3 days. You have 3 days to figure out whatever's going on, and I'll come back for you, and I won't tell anyone where you are. Whatever. The 3 days go by. Faye was kind of bored the first day and, like, pissed off. And then I think by day 2, she comes to terms with it, and she's like, wait.
Yeah.
I think I love him.
I like the idea of being his mate.
She's like, I kind of love that. Because she's also being confronted with everything that she was doubting about Tamlin and how everything with, I'm saying rhysand because that's how the author pronounces it. It was just easy. She didn't really, like, he challenged her in ways and they frustrated each other a lot, but it was because she had sort of met her match. He didn't...
And that's the point of
He didn't want to coddle her. He didn't want to belittle her. He was trying to meet her where she was at. And because they were both so very headstrong and intelligent and stubborn, they kind of put, I like to say, like, they put, like, mirrors up to each other. So I think she was realizing that
that she had also met her mate.
Yeah, that she had also met her mate, and just that there was a reason why things with Tamlin didn't work out, and there was a reason why it was like nothing. Well, because
it was also very much like self-reflection time for her, where she kind of like forgave herself for certain things, because the whole time
she was
like,
mad at herself.
I'm disgusting, like I'm gross, like I can't believe I'm doing this to Tamlin. Because although she didn't love him anymore, she still felt bad for what was happening.
And she also felt like she had loyalty to him. You know,
that one night at the inn,
he
talking
saved her
to Rice and was like, "I'm disgusting." Like,
yes,
and he's like, "You're
it's
not
okay
disgusting.
if you don't want to have sex with me."
Yeah,
and he's like, "No, you're
it's
not
okay
disgusting."
If you don't want to have sex with me.
It's like
you don't have to make up a whole story. It's fine.
He was like, "No, like."
Yeah.
Because he knew, because in his head, he's like, the reason you're feeling this is because we're married.
Yeah. And she's also realizing, you hear him talk about it, and we're going to get into this, but she's realizing that he knew she was his mate, and
the entire time.
And yet he let her be in love with someone else. Yeah. He let her do all these things. He was going to let her get married to him if she didn't.
He was going to get piss poor drunk with Cassian.
If the night at the inn didn't happen, he wasn't going to tell her. He was going to let her live her life.
You see how truly selfless this man is.
He just wanted her to be happy.
He just wants her to be happy, whether that was with him or without him. But the thing is that they're both not communicating. She's the happiest she's ever been with him because
that's her mate.
Not just that, but like they're friends. They like each other. With Tamlin, she liked him, she loved him, but she didn't like him. It was so easy for her to just like do anything with rhysand.
She didn't have to walk on eggshells.
No.
She wasn't worried that if she said the wrong thing, he would blow up like Tamlin did.
He celebrated all of her differences from him.
Yeah. He truly was, you will not yield to anyone. Like,
yes.
He was like, he truly empowered her, and he was like, you're going to be the badass bitch I know you are.
He loved everything about her, even the things he didn't necessarily understand at first.
So she kind of had all this realization on day 2 in the cabin. She's like, okay, well, I got another day here. Like, might as well snoop around. She finds paints in the cabin and decides to start just painting everything in the cabin.
And she paints them all.
So then does Mor come?
No.
Or Rice come?
It's
okay,
him.
So then day 3, she's like covered in paint. She's like, okay, like, oh God, it's time to do this. So she opens the door and is like, oh,
you're not Mor.
He's like, it took me 3 days, but like, I figured out where she put you.
Yeah.
So then she's like, okay, well, are you hungry? And he's like, am I hungry? And she's like, yeah, I'll make you food. And he's like, you'll make me food? And she's like, yeah, why? And he's like, that's a part of the mating bond.
Like, it's a very big thing for the female mate to offer
him food.
Him food. So then she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna make you soup.
She's like, I'm not a cook. I'm just gonna heat you up soup. But why don't you tell me the story?
He goes on to explain essentially what is the invisible string theory. And every interaction they've had, you're getting like his inside scoop, like what was going on. Like when you thought he was being a bad guy in his head, he like, oh my God, in the first book, at the end of the first book, you now realize that scared thing in his face was him realizing that she was his mate.
Like it finally clicked.
It clicked.
Like and he kind of always knew, but it didn't really click until she became
There was
Faye.
also a point in the first book where Tamlin gets to see Feyre under the mountain for a brief second, and instead of trying to book it with her, he starts making out with her, and he almost has sex with her. Rhys comes in, catches them, essentially fucking throws Tamlin out of the room because she has paint all over her body. He's now smeared her. Rhys has to make out with Feyre, and she...
So that Amarantha doesn't...
So that Amarantha...
the ruse doesn't...
Yeah, so that Amarantha is like, oh, he's just a whore. He wants to make out with her. If Feyre had walked out of that room like Tamlin would have let her smeared, Amarantha would have killed her on the spot.
Yeah.
So he's saving her life continuously, and even when it's not in his favor.
Killed Tamlin.
Yes.
When he did that, I could have killed Tamlin when he didn't go into your room.
Yes.
Yeah.
When he's like, the first time I saved you, literally you were a shell of a human being. I wanted to kill him.
Yeah, because it's we didn't really get into it because we thought we were locked for time, but when you're reading and the more time she spends with Tamlin in the second book, and the less of a person she's allowed to be, like. She's not eating as much. She's kind of going back to the state she was in when she was a starving poor person.
Yeah. I mean, she was full on depressed.
She lost interest in painting, all of her hobbies. She wasn't allowed to do anything, go anywhere. She didn't eat. Like, she was just a shell of a person.
And he can also kind of feel all this through the bond, but he was like, no, Tamlin's going to do the right thing. Like, I can't do that to her. Like, he just kept giving Tamlin the benefit of the doubt because he knew that's what she wanted.
Yeah.
She was like, she's going to figure it out. She's going to figure it out. So then you realize that on the wedding day, he was just going to get drunk with Cassian and Azriel.
His poor drunk.
And then he, like, senses through the bond. He can feel it in his thoughts that she is, like, screaming for help. And he was like,
I have to go.
It's now or never. So he gets her. And then you're just finding out that everything that he was doing was because he had so much love for her. But even if he wasn't going to be, like...
He didn't think that they would end up together.
If they weren't going to share the love in return, he was at least going to make sure she was the best person she could be.
Yeah, and if he only got her for a week, he only got her for a week. At least it was better than nothing.
Okay, let's get into it.
No, my favorite part when he was telling her, he's literally sobbing, tears. She's, like, kissing the tears off his face. And he's like, I finally felt it click into place when we got out of under the mountain. And I couldn't even tell you. And I went back to Valeris, and
the first time seeing my cousin Moore after 50 years,
and the first thing
fell
I
into
said,
her arms and cried and said,
she's my mate. Like, you haven't seen your cousin in 50 years. And the first thing you say is you're just
So
sobbing.
I met a girl.
I
met a girl. So I did a thing.
She was in love with someone
I did a
else.
thing, and I fell in love.
But you're also getting some invisible string throughout it all. So
yeah,
at one point he's under the mountain. He said he was having like probably one of the worst nights he's had in 50 years. And then he just said he sees this girl's hand. He doesn't really know why he's seeing it, but he's seeing it. And at this point,
it's kind of blurry.
It's kind of blurry. At this point, the mating bond obviously has not clicked into place until the last scene with the two of them in A Court of Thorns and Roses. So this is years before Feyre even comes to... Before she even was going to Tamlin.
Oh, I thought you meant the 50 years
It was
prior.
before they were piss poor at that point.
Sorry.
So then he just sees this hand. He sees the hand painting the flowers.
Oh, yes.
And the fire. And he missed home so much, so he sent her a thought of the stars so that she could paint it. He sees the hand painted, and he's like, oh, my God, that's lovely. And then you find out that the reason she painted it was because he told her to.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Because they were connected.
So that was like one of the invisible strings. When they're under the mountain, she is literally like on the verge of killing herself. Like she's about to go crazy. He sends her a song so that it can bring her spirits up.
And then he said, like, before she went to the spring court, like, it was always a little blurry. And then he finally saw her, and it was as clear as day. And he realized that she was in Prynthian. And so he's felt that he needed to go to Calamari.
He made like a deal with Amathara, and he was like, I'm just gonna go and spy. And she's like, okay,
there's
fine.
got to be double agents. Like, let me go.
Yeah, like the curse is almost about to, like, it's almost, we're in, you know.
We need to find. And then when he was like, I was looking for you, he was really looking for her.
He was looking for
He was
her.
like, and I kind of read your mind and saw you thought I was the most beautiful man in the world.
Yeah. So I love the invisible string theory. I've always kind of felt like when I meet my person, there's gonna be that, or we like find out that there was like,
oh my god, you were at this bar that night. Oh
Yeah.
my god,
or
you
like,
know this person.
or like I don't know, like whether it's like you know this person, we were at this place, we lived how many towns over. There's a special date that like means I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just feel like that's supposed to happen for me. I don't know for what, but
and then
hey,
soup's done, and she goes, so you gonna eat your soup? And he goes,
he practically unhinges his jaw.
it literally.
And then she was like, I was always gonna give you the soup.
First like sentence of next chapter is like he ate his soup.
Okay,
So where were we?
so
oh my god,
literally
he chapter 55. Chapter 55.
He literally slurps the soup up because at this point he's like, are we gonna have sex?
Are we gonna fuck?
Are we gonna have sex?
So then she like straddles him and is like, honestly, like these 3 days have been kind of good for me because they really let me get like my head clear and think. And she goes, I loved you, like I truly love you.
I would love to be your mate.
Yeah, like.
And then
No.
What?
She said that she was honored.
She was honored to be his mate.
I mean, I can't.
Hold on, I'm getting the quote.
And then he splays her on the table like her his own personal
I
piece.
don't think there's anything more endearing than if I know she said to him, but like if a man told me he was honored to be with me,
to love me.
I just don't. Oh my god, I think I would just cry right then and there. If someone told me that they were honored to love me, that's just the most beautiful thing I've ever read.
And now I want you to know, Rhysand, that I love you. I want you to know. His lips trembled, and I brushed away the tear that escaped his cheek. I want you to know, I whispered, that I am broken and healing, but every piece of my heart belongs to you, and I am honored to be your mate.
Like, oh my god.
So,
shut up.
So you can imagine where it goes.
Where it then they proceed to suck and fuck Raw for the rest of the chapter.
But there's also all of her paints are on the table. So like
they're covered in paint.
He throws her down on the table. She's
lays her out like a feast.
She's naked. She has paint that gets all over her. She's touching him, so like she's getting paint on him. Oh my god.
A 3-day fuck fest, basically.
Yeah.
Like, they could not stop jumping each other's bones.
Because then he explains that, like, the mating bond, in order for it to happen, like, a part of it is that you're, like, these instincts are just taking over due to the fact that you're supposed to kind of make a baby within the time of this mating bond. And he's like, but we don't have to worry about that because I'm going to take the contraceptive brew.
I keep joking about, that's the fun. I think, and there's levity in these books. Like there's a bunch of comedy. There's a bunch of comedic moments.
Take the contraceptive brew.
And I think the funniest thing that like there's been like
besides this Tamlin playing
like literally like they've already had sex like 3 times at this point.
Is that there's instead of like condoms or birth control pills, there's contraceptive brews.
We didn't even get into this because I thought we were short for time. What time period is this taking place in?
What time period is this
in? The first book was very much giving Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Like they were in a village with like everyone was wearing dresses.
You'd believe it was the Middle Ages if I told you.
And then in the second book, when they're going to Valeris, and Valeris is essentially just like a mini New York City, I'm like, what the
She also throws up in like an actual toilet.
Yeah, I was like, you have plumbing?
Yeah, this place has plumbing?
But they don't have birth control, they have contraceptive brews.
They have contraceptive
I think they're just their own timeline.
But he also like, I think she had a discussion with Tamlin, and it was, again, like, you will be a mother, you will provide, whatever.
Yeah. Like, as soon as we're married, like, get ready, baby, because you're pushing them out.
Kids are very rare.
Yes.
For Illyrians.
No, I thought the whole land.
I thought it was just Lillarians.
No, Illyrians.
Illyrians.
Okay. We're getting lost in the plot here.
No, because remember when the King of Hybern killed all the children, and she was like, oh my god, they killed all the children. Like, kids are so rare.
They're now rare.
I thought they were just upset because they were children.
No, well that, but also they're really rare to have.
High demand, low supply.
Yeah.
Okay.
Losing the plot.
Doesn't matter.
Rhysand, he says to her, he's like, with you, I would want a child or children, but that's ultimately up to you, and we don't have to rush into anything, and you don't have to give me an answer now. Like, he's
sweet baby Riz.
He's like, I'm gonna take the contraceptive brew, and you tell me when to get off the contraceptive brew. And she's like, you do that for me? And he's like, well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, well, like, with the impending war, I don't know if I really want kids now. And she's like, and I kind of want you all to myself for a little while. Which, then they fuck again.
Can we pull up? I just want to reference something.
I literally purchased this book today. It showed up today. I'm so excited.
When she's like, what will you call me? And he was like,
oh, I'll call you whatever. It's good to know that you've thought about it.
I'm glad I heard so many options.
Not that she has to test him, but she basically says to him, so what will you call me? Because she had a bad experience with Tamlin when he proposed to her. And she was like, so what am I? And he was like, wife. There is no high lady. And he looked at her and he was like, you'd be the high lady. He shows her the ultimate form of respect because he sees her as his equal.
Well, I mean, even he's so different from Tamlin, like, not to fault Tamlin, but like Riz, like, he didn't have servants. Like,
I wanted to come back to that. Thank you.
Yeah.
She makes a note that it never sat right with her that Tamlin had servants. And when she was first brought to Rhys's house, the first thing she thought was, this guy is the most powerful High Lord in all of the land, and you're telling me he doesn't have servants? And she gains this respect. And I think it's a perfect example of how he has all this money, he has all this power, but at the end of the day, he's just doing the right thing because he's a good person. Or he's not corrupted.
She was asking, like, oh, do you have the whatever day that you collect the debts? And he's like, what?
He actually said, he goes, that is very outdated, and I don't do that.
Yeah, he's like, that's been literally outlawed for like the past 200 years.
Yeah, I think he even made it illegal.
Yeah. And she was like, huh. Because
Ah.
also, him and his family, like, they all have been, like, he grew up with essentially a single parent. Yeah. And his mom raised him and his sister, and she was, like,
the mom kept a house on the Illyrian base camp because she wanted to stay close to her son. Because at one point he was explaining it to Feyre, and he's like, yeah, essentially, like, because it's what happened to Cassian and Azriel, where your parents just drop you off and you really never see him again. She's like, you never saw your mom again? He's like, no, my mom had a house on the camp.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, not my dad, but my mom.
Yeah, and then, like, Cassian and Azriel were bastards, and they were treated like shit, and they were literally thrown into like a ditch and were like, fend for your fucking self. And more, she was, like, she was basically sold off, and then she soiled herself by sleeping with Cassian, and then she literally had a note nailed to her that was like, it's your problem.
They nailed a note to her womb. Oh my god.
And it's like, your problem now, Autumn Court. And then they went, don't touch her. Don't touch her.
So you just see this,
like, he just wants to make a better world, and so that everyone no one has to deal with what they dealt with.
Through his life experiences, you see that he takes these bad things that happen to him, and he tries to make himself a better person for it. And he, I think, has an incredible amount of self-awareness that you don't really see almost any of the other characters have, especially not her other love interest, Tamlin, who is kind of just a product of his environment. Yeah. You learn. Like, you can't,
I mean, you fault him, but he's not all to blame.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, for most of his life, he didn't think he'd be put in the position he was due to the fact that he was the youngest out of all of his siblings. Yeah. They all just happened to die.
Yeah. Okay,
and he never really wanted the hand he was dealt, but that's your hand, bud.
They're like, we have to leave the fuck fest. War.
War is impending.
Gotta go to war.
My favorite part. So they land in the Illyrian camp, and every single Illyrian warrior takes all the women and children, and they fly up. And she's like, "What the fuck?" And then Cassian comes out, and he's like, "Feyre, you're looking kind of hot. You're," blah, blah, blah. And then they get into a fist fight, and she's like, "If it takes most guys a week, a month, how long is it gonna take him?" Because Cassian, his brother, looked at me wrong. Yeah. So all the Illyrian warriors took all, because they were like, him and his mate are coming back. No one can look at them.
Get him out of here. He reeks of sex.
I'm not chancing it. Yeah.
And they fuck in the house, and then they're literally like, oh, it smells like sex in here.
Don't they have sex in the war camp?
Mm-hmm.
That's in the third book.
in the third book.
Oh, sorry.
They fuck in the
Because
mother's house.
At this point, in the book, it's towards the end, and they get wind of the cauldron. Mm-hmm. They have the two halves of the book by this point. We didn't even mention this. We didn't even
basically to destroy the cauldron. They need.
What is the cauldron? Tell them.
Oh my god.
So the cauldron
is life, basically.
Is essentially like the key to essentially starting / ending this war. And the bad guy, the King of Hybern, is what it's called, right? The King of Hybern has it, and they need to like disarm the cauldron. They need to do something with. They know they have to do something with the cauldron.
It's almost like the center of their universe,
in order so he doesn't have this power to wield.
Yeah.
Cauldron, help me.
Cauldron, boil me.
Cauldron, boil me. So they know that they have to do something with this cauldron in order to stop. They're essentially trying to stop this war before it starts in this book. So then they get wind of where the cauldron will be. They figure out a plan. They're mated by this point, whatever. It's go time. Feyre, they believe, is one of the only people that can stop it due to the fact that she was the only one of them that's made. She's the curse breaker. She was the only one of them that's made that wasn't born like this because she has a piece of everyone's power. And she's kind of connected to the two halves of the book that they use. So whatever, they go there. She uses the two halves of the book. She's kind of gripping on the cauldron, saying whatever chant Amren told her to do. And then it doesn't work. Because A, it was a trap, and because B, it was killing her. They didn't realize that
this bitch is always dying.
It was a give and take.
This bitch is always dying.
And in order to like actually like break the cauldron, she would have had to die. Whatever. It's a trap. The king comes out. He's like, oh, you thought you can outsmart me? All the doors are locked. They're all locked in the room with this cauldron and the king.
She gives the book. She had the book. She puts it into Rice's pocket.
Julian comes out.
Jurian.
The man who was in the ring. I don't know anyone's name.
You were the one who told me to read this book.
So,
I can't get the name
in the King of Hybern's castle, you have Feyre, Riz, Azriel, Cassian, and more, and the King of Hybern and Jurian.
And now Jurian comes out, and they're all like, "Oh my god, he
You're
used the
alive?"
cauldron."
By the way, guys, if you remember from book 1, Jurian's the guy who was trapped in the eyeball ring. He was resurrected.
They used her eyeball ring to bring him back to life because the king wanted him to command one of his armies. Because the king's plan, he wants to destroy the wall that separates the Fae from the humans and kind of eradicate the humans and make the land all Fae. So he's bringing back one of his best generals from the war. He's back, whatever. And then they're all like, why? Like, da-da-da-da.
And then fucking Tamlin walks out.
You're like this.
With Lucian. Of course he had a bitch with him.
And then he was like, the king's like, he made a deal with me that if I could get you guys here, then I could use his forces for the war or something like. I can't remember what the logistics of it were, but it was something along the lines.
They could use the Spring Court to enter the human lands.
Yeah, because the Spring Court is one of, I think, the only courts that kind of borders
it.
So then she's like, what the fuck, Tamlin? And he's like, babe, I had to do it.
He's like, the heart wants what it wants.
He's like, babe, I literally had to do it. My tubes were tied.
And earlier in the book, you meet the queens. We didn't even talk about the queens, where they were meeting.
We literally talked about no plot. We just talked about the romance.
That's the plot.
Hey,
literally.
Can't blame me.
Hey, this is romance with a side plot of war.
Yeah, so Riz, Azriel, Cassian, and Feyre would always meet the queens at Feyre's family home. So,
because they needed to get the other half of the book that the mortals had.
And they needed like a safe space. So they met, and in walks the queens with Feyre's sisters, Nesta and Elaine.
And at this point, Tamlin looks like at Feyre, who's obviously disgusted, looks at the king. He's like, they weren't a part of the deal. And the king's like, they are now.
The king's like, I'm evil. What did you expect?
He's like, they are now.
The queens sold them out. They told him about Valeris. They told him about the sisters. And Tamlin was like, no. Sir,
like,
that
babe,
wasn't our
he was like, this wasn't the plan.
He was like, no, babe, I was just supposed to get the girl. Like, what are these bitches doing here? Like, I just asked for one. And the king goes, well, while they're here, I promised the queens if they betrayed your trust that I'd make them all immortal. Because all the queens essentially, like, they're just want to be immortal and beautiful forever. And the cauldron promises that if you dip yourself in. And he goes,
you become Fae.
But we don't know that for sure. So he says, We got two lovely ladies. Come on down. It's time to dip them in the cauldron and see if they survive.
And he goes, let's go, Elaine. And then
they pick up Elaine. Nesta's screaming. At this point,
someone has to hold her back.
Shot Cassian and Azriel. Yeah, they're down for the count.
Yeah. Cassian's wings shredded.
Because also the king, we forgot to mention, threatened that if any of them tried to stop what was about to happen, they'd be shot dead. And they knew the king wasn't kidding based on the fact that Cassian and Azriel were on the brink of dying in the corner. And
Cassian's one, because Nesta did not want to put Elaine in danger.
Didn't even talk about this.
And so Cassian promised.
Yes. One of the first times they had met.
I will always protect you. Yes. I will never let anything, any harm come to you.
Until my dying breath, I will protect you. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like the first,
little spissy spice.
Little Cassie and Nesta moment.
So, Elaine...
They throw Elaine in the cauldron.
Yeah, Elaine
Nesta
gets thrown
has
in
to be held back by whatever goon
she
has
is,
her.
Hissing, just
spitting, she's kicking, she's
they're
throwing up.
No, they said they were gagged and bound.
Yes.
They were in their nightgowns. They took them out of their bed.
Because this was the one thing that she tasked herself with doing.
Is protecting Elaine.
Keeping Elaine safe. And this is the moment where she has failed.
Mm-hmm. Not only has Cassian failed, Nesta's also failed.
Yes. So then they dump out the cauldron. Elaine's out. Elaine's soaking wet. They're explaining how she's so soaking wet. She's practically naked. Her nightgown is so sheer. And then Lucian feels so bad that he runs over to her. He puts a jacket over her.
And then looks into her eyes and he goes, "You're my mate."
I mean...
read the fucking room, Lucian.
Yes, Carmen.
Literally.
By the way, Elaine's engaged to a human man.
A man she's in love with.
Faye.
Who hates Faye. Who she is actually in love with.
She literally has an iron ring on.
Because the humans believe that the Fays are immune to iron, which they're not. But humans, it's like an old wives' tale.
They're not immune.
Oh, that it hurts them or something. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, but
it's
like an old wives' tale that it'll protect you against Faye, which it does not because it doesn't do anything. Wrong. So she's dumped out. She now has a mate for whatever reason.
So Lucian picks her up bridal style, carries her over.
She's freaking out because she's what the fuck? Why am I 6 feet tall now?
Yeah, Nesta is flipping out.
So then Cassian's kind of trying to crawl, but he physically cannot.
His wings are shredded. He's on the brink of death.
Riz is literally oh my god, we have to get Cassian out of here. He will literally rather be dead than not
lose his wings. So then they're going to dunk Nesta in, and she just looks to the king and she points at him.
They're saying that in that moment, she's essentially not really putting a curse on him, but she is saying
you'll rue the day.
I'm going to get you. You are not killing me, and this will come back to you.
Yeah.
There was a movie or a show or something where somebody goes over and they go, that's what I pictured. I can picture it in my head, but I can't. Yes. I'm going to try and find it.
So she gets dunked. She goes in slowly at what it seems like, where it's she is literally so she then goes in and once again.
She's dumped out.
Dumped out. And
she somehow gets over by Tamlin and Lucian and her sister.
I think because she goes by Elaine. So then the king's to the queens, because this was the deal they made. He goes, it works. Who's up next?
Yeah, the prettiest queen was or the youngest
forgot to mention that when Nesta and Elaine came out of the cauldron, it made a point to say that they had gotten 10 times more beautiful.
They were already supposed to be.
They were already gorgeous girls, but they were now so stunning. I think you had to throw up. Who threw up?
Oh yeah.
Feyre did.
Someone threw up. Yeah, Feyre threw up.
She threw up because she thought her sisters were dying. But that's besides the point. But she made a point to say her sisters were always beautiful, but now they were so striking, they physically took your breath away. So the queen saw that and said, I'm up next.
I'll have what she's having. Youngest and prettiest queen.
It was the most gorgeous queen. So then they went, okay. They went to dunk her in. Whatever happens, they dump her out. She is now probably about 90 years old.
She is decaying.
Could not be older.
Geriatric.
The oldest woman you've ever seen. And then I don't think
the oldest person.
And then no one wanted to go in after that.
Yeah, no one to go in after that. They don't know why at this point, which you don't find out until the next book. You don't realize why this queen didn't come out gorgeous and stunning. This beautiful woman.
She got de-ossified.
Yeah. So
and
then
everyone's freaking out.
The vibe in the room changes. Yeah. And Feyre sees this and goes, I have to get everyone out of here.
And the king of Tamlin's like, you promised, break the bond. And
everyone's screaming.
It's like, that's my mate. And he's like,
can't
I don't care.
You can't just undo a mating bond,
and
you know?
Tamlin's like, I don't care. You're supposed to be the most powerful king. Break it. Break it now.
So then before he breaks it, one of her powers is she can like elude light.
Mm-hmm.
So
they found that out when they were fucking.
Yeah,
she was glowing the whole time.
She can glow when she comes. So she like makes this ball of light go throughout the room, and as she's doing this, you're hearing her in her monologue. She doesn't really feel the mating bond. It's not as strong, or whatever the original bond. You don't realize they have the other mating bond at this point. Through the original bond, she's like, please. Like, I'm doing something. Like, you have to get my sisters and get out of here. Play along. Please, for the love of God. Like, tell me you hear me. Tell me you hear me. But I think they were also scared of using the magic between each other because they could sense it somehow. So she, on her one hand, is just like, please, like, I'm doing something. Like, please, just get out of here. Get my sisters. Get out of here. Like, I'll find you. Like, I'm doing something. I have a plan. Whatever. So then the king goes, after that happens, she's the ball of light. She's begging, not Tamlin. She's begging rhysand to realize what she's doing. The ball of light happens, and she's like, Tamlin!
Yeah.
And then, like, essentially, the ball of light, you learn, she unlocked all the doors.
Yeah.
Like, she ripped whatever magic was the King of Hybern put up.
So then she pretends like the ball of light was essentially like
him breaking the bond.
Not the bond, no. Because he does
bond.
Break the bond.
I love how this turned. This turned into
they
like
think that's taking the spell rhysand put on her.
This turned from our takes to just us retelling the whole story.
This is literally Dear John all over again.
Well, let's just wrap up the second book.
We're literally at the end. So then she does the ball of light, but they think that the ball of light was her like escaping the prison that rhysand had kept her mind in.
Yes.
So then she goes, Tamlin, oh my God. And then she turns to the king and she's like, please break this filthy thing on me. Like, it's disgusting. I don't want it. And then rhysand's like, no, you foiled my plans.
No.
How dare you?
How'd you figure it out?
And she's like, Tamlin, help me.
You moron.
And he's like, no.
Yeah.
You're going to rue the day you've done it now. So then, as the king goes to, like, break the bond, they all kind of, I don't know if they escape or they just get to leave.
No, they break the bond. He breaks it. And then Tamlin's like, the tattoo's gone.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Rhys.
But I don't know how they get the sisters out of there.
And then,
so that's what I'm saying. I think they kind of, like, ran out and escaped.
I think they did run out and escape.
I think him undoing the tattoo was, like, a distraction because they were able to get Nesta and Elaine.
So then she looked over because Azriel and Cassian looked at her like, oh my God, like, she's betraying us. Like, what is she doing? And then Moore realizes what she's doing.
Yes.
She gets the sisters out, and then Riz literally, like, hops onto Azriel, and Cassian winnows them out. And Tamlin's like, what happened? And Lucian's like, my mate! My Elaine! And then she's like, Tamlin, just take me home. We'll get them back. We'll get them back.
She's like, but I just need to be with you. Like, I need to go home. So then the next two chapters is from Rhys's point of view and one's from Feyre's point of view. It's the last two chapters of the book. And Rhys's point of view is them coming back to Valeris.
And they're like, how could you leave her?
How could you leave her? Amren comes in and she's like, where the fuck did Feyre go? Like, where, like, what the hell did you do? What happened? And he's like, no. Like, we have a plan.
He's like, we have a spy.
Yeah.
And he's like, not only did I send my mate, I sent the
High Lady
of the Night Court.
Because he no longer has the bond tattoo on the one hand. Well, so he lifts up his other hand. Everyone realizes that they put a glamour over it so no one could see it. And now it's like a true like mating bond.
They still have their mating tattoo. They put a glamour over it, which means they concealed it. The tattoo that everyone saw vanish
was
on
their
her
deal.
Was the deal that he made
that he
under
was
the
already
mountain
gonna break.
That he was already gonna break. And that's where we leave you with book 2.
2 hours.
Feyre is in the spring court as a double fucking spy, and we're gonna leave you. But the third book,
Taylor physically can't stop herself.
I literally, like, book 2 is like, I fell in love with book 2, and book 3 I love because I like get a girl crush on Feyre.
Book 2
we'll talk more about it.
Book 2 is a lot of the romance built. So like, Book 1 is the foundation building. Book 2 is the romance building. Book 3 is there's romance, but it is very heavy on the war strategy. It's strategy and war.
4 is just the lore. Like
I have to finish 4, and then I need to do 5.
And then 5
I'm in the midst of 5.
I don't even know what 5
apparently, I saw a TikTok that said 100 pages in there's peen play.
There is some peen play.
And with that, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And just comment down below. ACOTAR takes.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say, because apparently we're going to do a 3rd episode on it.
We're going to have a 3rd and a 4th.
All of our social medias are linked down below. Thank you so much for watching. Love you guys. Bye.
Love you.